God Stories Radio would like to thank Affirm Consulting for partnering with us in ministry. Affirm Consulting is a faith-based, hands-on business consulting firm serving clients nationwide. The reputation is built on helping countless small and mid-sized companies overcome business challenges. If strengthening, growing, or scaling your business is your goal, schedule a free Meet for Coffee with the business experts at Affirm Consulting.
You're listening to the God Stories Radio podcast with Fritz, Mike, and Tina, bringing hope, comfort, and encouragement through the power of the Christian testimony. Listen live on the Mixlr app and follow us on your favorite platform, including iHeartRadio, Spotify, and radio.com. Stay connected with us on Facebook and Twitter at God Stories Radio.
Session 224. I'm Fritz.
234.
234. Oh my God, it's been a long day. Thank you guys. Well, welcome to session 234.
Yes.
I'm Fritz.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Tina.
It's Thursday night.
It's Thursday night.
Yeah, it's been a long week.
Oh, for you
couple
guys,
of weeks,
for sure.
actually, because I was sick last week. And so...
And I understand it was pretty bad.
Yeah. I had a respiratory infection, so.
Hence, no God Stories Radio.
Yeah, barely any voice.
Down for the count.
Mm-hmm.
Couch potato action. Live and in color.
I don't even think I got to the couch.
No, you were in pretty bad shape there for a couple of days. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Well, I'm very glad to have put that chapter behind me and be enjoying just feeling better. And every day I feel a little stronger and a little better. So if you're a person who prays for us, I just want to say thank you, because we feel those prayers and we really appreciate them. And, if there's something that you'd like us to pray about for you, please feel free to drop us a line at godstoriesradio.com on our website, or at godstoriesradio@gmail.com.
That's right. We love to hear from you.
We would.
We really do. And I want to welcome everybody on Mixlr tonight. Mr. Jay Calhoun is on with his lovely wife, Jessica, who was a guest
Yes.
a couple weeks ago. Had a great time. What a testimony.
It was great. Absolutely.
And who else do we have?
Robert Herman.
You need to put your glasses on, mister.
I need my glasses.
What are you trying to do? Like, what kind of move was that?
That was funny, wasn't it?
His chin is lifting higher and higher towards the ceiling.
My nose was so crinkled. Christy Lee, welcome, is with us on the Mixlr tonight.
Welcome, Christy.
Christy.
Welcome, all those on Mixlr. And if you want to listen to us on Mixlr, you can go to our website and just sign up, and then we can see who you are actually signed up as on Mixlr as who you are. And your name comes through, and we can see these people right now.
So we also have some Facebook likes.
All right.
We do. After 2 weeks, we have a few of them.
Yeah. So I want to say thank you to Michael Loof.
Michael Loof.
Yes.
And I owe him an apology because I said loaf last week.
Oh.
And it is Loof. And
Loof.
Michael, I'm sorry, but I apologize for that.
Well, we're just so glad that you liked us on
Yes.
Facebook, Michael.
Thank
you.
Absolutely.
And we also want to say thank you to Brianne Hamilton.
Oh, I know Brianne.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, thanks, girl. I appreciate you liking us. Welcome to the GSR family.
Yes.
And we also want to say thank you to Chris Smith.
Chris Smith, thank you.
Thank you, Chris Smith.
Welcome to the GSR family.
And the last name is Melinda Singleton Verscharen. I'm going to go with Verscharen.
All right, Melinda, welcome to the
Thank you.
GSR family. Thanks for liking us. We appreciate you doing that. Thank
Yes,
you
we
so
do.
much.
And more exciting news, we have a new country listening.
Uh-oh.
It may be a new country and maybe a province or something of that nature.
That's how it's listed. So
Okay. So we want to welcome country number 108, which is St. Kitts and Nevis.
Nevis.
So welcome.
Yes.
St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yes.
Country number 108.
in the Caribbean.
Caribbean, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So 108.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
Isn't it, though?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It still blows my mind. It's just the Lord.
Uh-huh. We took
Nice way to
Greater
open.
things we shall do and see.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So anybody else out there, you have not liked us on Facebook, we would love for that you would do that, and your name will be announced on our highlight section here.
We love it.
We do.
We
love
do.
it.
We
Not
love
that-
saying your names
know
and
it.
just thanking you individually because it's probably the only opportunity that we're going to get to thank you
Right.
and say your name. But, you know,
But
you could also be a guest, which would be another lovely way for us to actually get to know
betcha.
you a
Right.
little bit.
Exactly.
Right. But you also become a part of the GSR family.
Yes, you definitely do. And especially when you're a guest, because we kind of create a deeper level of a relationship with you at that point. We kind of get to know you a little bit and you get to know us a little bit. And, you know, for as long as the podcast goes, but, you know, what's really, really neat is that you start to become family to other people that are listening to you. And your testimony continues to live on because, you know, we upload these testimonies on our website and they're there and available for other people to listen to them. And, you know, you might give your testimony this year, but your testimony could be up there for 10 years and ministering to people
Mm-hmm.
or longer. Who knows what God has planned? You know, we've been going for 6 years now,
Almost 7.
almost 7. So, you know, there's a lot of people being blessed still by, session 1 or session 10, etc. So, you know.
Funny that you would say session 10.
I know, huh?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Still one of our most listened to, probably one of the longest podcasts. I mean,
Pretty close. Well, we've done a couple. Well, Mr. Genron broke that record, I think.
Yeah.
But it
It was
was.
Beauty to Ashes was session 10.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Funny
Fantastic.
that you would say that.
Well, that's awesome.
If you haven't heard session 10, do yourself a favor.
Oh, yeah.
Give it a
And
good plug
Yep,
there.
the best way to get there on session 10 is through the website. There's 1 through 70 there
Right.
on the website. And we're working, was just notified recently, Mikey said that there were some episodes that were not, like 65 through.
I think it's
something.
71 through 134.
Yeah, so we're going to work on getting those available on the website as well so that you can listen to those. And I spoke to Jay Calhoun today, and his wife knows somebody that does T-shirts and designs and stuff like that. And I said, I had this crazy idea about doing a T-shirt because we have several people that have listened to every single one. And I wanted to do something that said I'm a serial listener. So
That's cute.
I know Jay's listening. So I gave him the ball and told him to run with that.
Uh-huh.
Just design it and whatever.
And I know 2 people that have actually done that.
Yeah, that's the truth. So there we go.
That's really cool.
What else is going on, Mikey?
Well, it's Thursday night and I'm here. I mean, I look forward to this all week long, pretty much.
How can you not?
I know.
Just every aspect of it, I love.
Father continues to let us be stewards, and I thank them for continuing to let us be stewards as long as we don't mess it up. And 2020, it just, I don't know. I think 2020, something's gonna open up.
I think so. And just a good spot to thank Dennis Huff and his team at Affirm Consulting for investing in us and saying, hey, I want to help. I want to come alongside you. And if your business needs that kind of a push, then go see Dennis at Affirm Consulting. And we appreciate his team down there. So, man, new countries, a bunch of likes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fired up.
The only thing is we don't have a guest.
That's okay. I'm still fired up.
Mm-hmm.
We have us, and Jesus said that he would come tonight, and he's here. I got a chair for him.
Okay.
And
you got a picture of him drinking coffee up there, too.
I do. I know. Everybody that's come in here wants that. I got to thank Susan Morris for slipping me that covertly. And Jay's probably laughing right now because he knows exactly what picture I'm talking about, because there was two of them in the office, and it was sitting up there on that little windowsill for the longest time. And it's a picture of Jesus and having coffee and the cafe sign. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So thank you, Susan. Anyway, all right, babe. Well, you came in with something on your heart tonight, and I love this book, and I can't wait to hear what comes of this. So take it away.
Well, I have a really, really close friend that I work with who recently lost her mom. And I had the privilege of being able to attend the service to kind of get to know her mom through her family's eyes. I never had the opportunity to meet her mom, unfortunately. Even though we've been friends for so many years, the opportunity just never presented itself. And I feel like I got to know more about her mom and her family just between all the stories that I know that she's told me through the years, and then just seeing the video and, hearing stories about her mom from her different family members and so forth. So needless to say, when people leave us on this earth, it's not easy for us that are left behind. We are the ones that are left to deal with the loss that this person has left in our life, because in some cases that person filled a very large part of your life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And for a long time, as in the case of a parent. And of course, the same would be like with a spouse or a child. These are people who are in your life long term.
You bet.
And, sadly, we lost a colleague at work this week as well. And I think just the topic just sort of really resonated with me, because I was telling my friend about Ecclesiastes 3 and verses 3 and 4. I'm sorry, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, and the verses are 3 and 4. But it talks about how there's a time for everything, and I just think that is so relevant, because when you're dealing with loss, or when you're dealing with anything in your life, it's important to understand that there's a balance. And Ecclesiastes the whole book kind of talks about balance, and it kind of talks about how things are secular, and, they have seasons and they revolve. And, as Christians, we talk about seasons of our life all the time, or we say, oh, I'm going through this season.
Yeah, I think chapter 3 really breaks that down.
It does.
It's time for everything.
It really
is. Time to be
born,
a time to die, time to plant.
Yeah. So, babe, why don't you go ahead and read it from verse 1 all the way to verse 8, it looks like.
Okay, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, a time for everything, starting at verse 1. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to change, or a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to enhance and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace.
And what version was that you were reading?
That's the NIV.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I have it in New Living Translation.
I'd like to hear that.
Oh, okay, sure. So, same thing, a time for everything. For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to turn away, a time to search and a time to quit searching, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be quiet and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. And I don't know, in listening to this, I just feel like there's so much wisdom in those verses. And the older I get, I feel like the more that all of this really resonates with me and in my life. Everything has a balance to it. And, a lot of people these days are really off balance. They suffer from anxiety, and you have to find ways to put your life back into balance. And it's not easy, because I know we all suffer with it, and we all go through difficult times in our life. Like I mentioned, we lost a coworker, and a friend of mine lost her mother. That's a time to grieve right there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But it doesn't say stay in grief, right? It's for a season. It's for a time.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to bring balance to that, because there needs to be time to dance as well.
Right. Each one of those verses on a time for has the complete opposite at the other end of the verse.
Yes. And I just kind of imagine those scales, and I think about how much are we all out of balance? Because throughout the book of Ecclesiastes, he talks about, and I think it's Solomon, but I'm not 100% sure, and I'm not sure that they're 100% sure that it's Solomon that wrote this book. It just says a teacher or the teacher. But he was king of Israel, and he was after King David. So I think that the whole book just talks about balance, and it talks about the meaninglessness of a lot of things in life. We hold a lot of value and importance on things that we probably shouldn't. We give way too much value and importance to things that really are meaningless.
Yep. And the very next verse of that is, what do workers gain from their toil? I have seen the burden God has laid on the human race. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. I know that there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live, that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all their toil. This is the gift of God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing taken from it. God does it so that people will fear him. Whatever is has already been, and what will be has been before, and God will call the past to account. It's an amazing book
it's so poetic. It really is very poetic, in my opinion. And I just thought, nature is very much like that, because in the whole book of Ecclesiastes, he akins everything so much to nature. He talks about the seas and the rivers and how the waters kind of come and go. You think about precipitation and condensation and how water travels. It's not like more water is coming or less water is going away. It's the same water that just kind of keeps in the cyclical balance, of going through these different sort of cycles. He talks about the sun, rising and setting every day. It's all nature in its very existence is cyclical, and life in its very self is cyclical also. So you have to strive for balance in your life. And if your life is out of balance, you need to ask God to help you put it back into balance. And you have to be willing to listen to what he says. It's not easy, and it's easy to get out of balance quickly because we tend to focus on the things that we want, our goals, our needs, etc., rather than what God wants from us. And I think that's really the key, is learning how to hand everything over to him rather than saying, oh, I'm going to seek out this person for help on this. Well, why aren't you going first to God and just seeking God's counsel first?
Right.
And see where he leads you.
I think it's just part of human nature. For some reason, we just disregard. I always think about Mikey's story with the lawnmower. We'll have to get him to tell it again one day, but just that he looked up to heaven and he remembered, oh, I can come to you for the small things.
Mm-hmm.
And we can. And if you know the story, you know that that the Lord actually got this mower running.
Want me to go there?
Yeah, why don't you tell that, Mikey? I mean, it's pretty appropriate.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I was a baby Christian, so to speak, at the time. And I was kind of at the early stages of this journey that Father has me on. And after I had lost everything with that 2x4 upside the head, I was in a huge house in Tampa, and a woman who owned that house knew my situation, and she knew I needed a place to stay, so she was going to have me be kind of the manager there, and she was going to fill the bedrooms and rent the bedrooms out so I'd mow the lawn, do the bushes, and just make sure, as her words were, just don't let any orgies happen there. So, I get there and there's no lawnmower in the garage. So I called Jan. I says, Jan, I don't have any money and I can't, so I need you to get me a lawnmower if you want me to do the lawn. And by the weekend, a guy shows up with a lawnmower, and he said that he went through it all, new spark plug and air filter and such like that, filled it up with gas and all. So that weekend, I mowed the grass. Next weekend comes, I mowed it again. The third weekend, I mowed it again. But then the fourth weekend showed up, and I took it over to the spot where I started all the time and pulled the cord, and it conked out within 3 seconds. I pulled it again, started up, conked out within about 3 seconds. And I did that a number of times. And I said, all right, I'll put it back in the garage and I'll try it next week. And I did it next week. Same thing happened. Pulled it about a dozen times and nothing happened except for starting and conking out. So I took it over to the driveway and looked at it, and there was a brand new air filter, a brand new spark plug. I even squeezed the fuel line and took it back and started it, and it started and conked out. And so, okay, I'll try it again next week. So the third week comes, go over to the spot, start it, and the usual thing. I don't know why I expected it to start, but it started and conked out. And I tried it about a half a dozen times, and then I was about ready to give up. And I remembered walking towards the driveway that during that particular week, and I believe it was on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and this is the weekend, that I heard or I read somewhere that you can come to me for the small things. And in my situation at the time, everything was huge. So again, I read that I could come to him with small things. So I looked up to the heavens and I said, okay, Father, you know my situation. I can't afford to buy a new lawnmower or fix it and everything else. And I can come to you. You said, I read that I can come to you for the small things. And as you can see, the grass is 3 weeks long. I need to get this done. And so I went back over to start where I usually started, pulled the cord, and it mowed and started. And I was able to do the front yard, the side yard, the backyard with no problems whatsoever. And I don't know about you, but I've told that story many times, and I have some people look at me like I got 3 heads, but I know where it came from. So then the following week came, guess what? I started it, and it conked out within 3 seconds. Started it and conked out. And then that particular week was a Sunday. I did have one roommate at that time, and he was a cable guy. And he just happened to be pulling up at the time I was in the front yard looking at it. And he was with someone. He was training someone. And the kid with him got out. He says, what's the matter? I says, I have no idea. And he had it running within 5 minutes. So he had it run one week and had brought somebody else to come and fix it the next week. And that's the way I see it.
It's a beautiful story.
I love that story. It's just a classic example of trusting the Lord in the small things and not just the big things.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but when you look at how long it takes us to even get to turning it over to him,
mm-hmm.
that's
it's
typically
not a first reaction.
It's typically what happens in most scenarios, I think, in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
That we wait and we wait and we hold out, trying to fix it ourselves or expecting it to just repair on its own.
Yeah.
Instead of serving it up to God.
Exactly. Or, the other end of the spectrum. I got this, Lord. I don't want to bother you. I got this. But Mikey really had no say in the thing. If
I didn't,
if that yard was going to get mowed and you were making good on your promise, it had to start.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I see it as only one way, and he answered that prayer right then and there for sure, and gave me a little bit of faith quotient there as well.
Well, whether you're a baby Christian or a seasoned Christian, I feel like we all need those moments. I know I still do.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because, I was just praying about some things in my life. I have a 16-year-old, and that's a fun age for anybody who's parents of a teenager. We're blessed in that he's a good kid, but sometimes they just don't want to do what you need them to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard because you're trying to figure out, how do I make this person who is about twice my size and very adamant about the fact that they don't want to do something, how do I make them understand that they need to do this, that they need to get this done, when at the end of the day, the choice is really theirs?
I think with children, it's a little different. When you have adults that are living at home, that's a whole different realm, in my opinion. But when you have children, or at least not at the age of adulthood, which is what, 18? Is that what we kind of assume?
20, yeah.
18 to 20. I don't think they have a right to choose. Now, that's circumstantial, but I mean, if, mom or dad lay down the law, and it says in the Bible that they are to honor their parents.
Mm-hmm.
There's no fine line there.
Yeah, I'm
not that
I'm
they
not,
always do.
I'm not saying that they're not supposed to honor their parents, but I'm trying to make a point that you can't make people do something that they don't want to do. It's very difficult to get somebody to do something that they're flat out refusing to do. And I was basically at my wit's end, and I, started praying about it. I've been praying about so many things with his education and so forth, and just, Lord, how are we going to get to this point? How are we going to even just get through this step? And something happened. The Lord showed up.
Really?
Because now he's
No
not
way.
complaining.
Coincidence.
And he's going to the tutoring twice a week with just full acceptance now. Like, we went from he was fighting me tooth and nail to the following week where he was just like, okay, complacent.
And it didn't take any leverage?
Didn't take anything on my part other than asking the Lord to step in.
Well, that's enough leverage.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, typical with children, you have to take away something that they love so that they'll do something they don't want to do to get back the thing that they love. And in this case, that didn't have to happen. And that was really the focus of my question because, he's got something that he really loves, and that she didn't have to mess with that.
Mm-hmm.
Lord showed up, changed his heart. It's a heart change.
It was a heart change.
Yeah, absolutely.
He did something to make him change because, he gets this obviously from me, but, he's pretty stubborn. And it's not easy to get him to change on something. So it was just, it was really neat to see the Lord work and show up in that instance because I was just dreading going through the same thing again this week, and I didn't have to. It was just sort of like he just took care of it.
Okay.
And that's a little thing for most people, but for me, it was a big thing.
Right. And down the road, he'll some point realize and thank you for it.
Oh, we got a long ways to go on that one, Mikey.
Yeah, but the moral of the story here is that next time that will be your first instinct is to go to the Lord with the problem instead of trying all these things, getting frustrated to the point where you have no place else to go but to the Father. And Mr. Guilty right over here, I'm just calling it out because I am that's just classic for me to do something like that. I will go till I have no more to give until I'm at the end of myself, and then I'll finally say, Father, you've got to deal with this. And you know what? He doesn't have to, but he does. And that's the grace and the sovereignty of God. And that's the beauty of God is that he will allow us. He'll give us just enough rope to hang ourselves, and then he fixes it.
Yeah. Well, that's what he's waiting for us to come back or come to him for that.
Yeah, it's just so interesting that every time we finally step out, that he steps in.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Got that right. Man, if we could just get out of our own way.
I had a friend who used to say that all the time.
It's the truth, though. Yeah. My goodness, we get in our own way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we just, oh, man.
But the good news is that it's nothing new. It's been the same way since the dawn of time.
Well, that's what Ecclesiastes says.
Exactly.
Ecclesiastes. Say that fast 3 times, Mike. There's nothing new under the sun.
It's just chasing the wind.
Chasing the wind. Love your wife.
It's all meaningless.
All meaningless.
That wraps up Ecclesiastes in a nutshell.
I would say. That was really good.
Yeah, I hope it's encouraging for someone.
I think it would be. It was encouraging for me.
Well, if you found it encouraging, we would love for you to drop us a line and let us know. You could let us know either on Facebook or Twitter, or you can email us or make a comment on our website. So we'd just love to hear from you and get your input.
We really would. And we'd love to have you come in and give your testimony right here in the studio. If you're not able to do that, you're out of state, you can call in. We can do Skype. There's a lot of ways you can give your testimony. If you're out of the country, we've had people write testimonies and send them in. We've even had people write stints in their day. And, we always talk about stupid human tricks. My buddy Austin wrote in, there was like a 2 or 3 hour stint in his day.
It was awesome.
It was amazing. And we're going to have to read that. I'm going to have to dig it up and we'll have to read it again because it was just amazing what God did.
It was. I mean, and again, it's just another story that, you know where it came from.
That's right. This is God's stories and we'll take them.
Well, I'd like to challenge the listeners out there. I'd like to
challenge.
I know. Do you accept the challenge? I'd like to challenge you to listen to a different God Stories radio podcast for 5 out of the 7 days this week. So if you haven't listened to them all, if you would just pick 5 that you've never heard before and just give it a listen and see how it blesses your life this week.
And then hop on Facebook and make a comment.
Yeah.
Say, hey,
yeah,
this one was my favorite, or this one really touched me, or something like that. And just put it out there and
everybody will see it, right?
You're exactly. Not so much for us, but we're a free resource. And we just want everybody to get their hands on this, and we do as much as we can do, and we just depend on the listeners and the word of mouth. That's the most powerful.
The comments we get are amazing.
Yeah.
So if some are making those comments, it's got to be.
Yep. Absolutely.
Just a lot of people out there just okay, somebody else will do it.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, we love you all, and we appreciate you all, and thank you for spending the last 40 minutes with us.
You bet. What a great show.
It was.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks, everybody that's been on Mixlr tonight. Thank you, everybody that prays for us and listens to us and supports us. We so appreciate it. If you haven't swung by our website, there's been a few changes there. It's www.godstoriesradio.com. Godstoriesradio, all one word, .com. Drop by there and check us out. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for liking us on Facebook and all the social media and all your comments and prayers. We greatly appreciate it.
And remember to put God first. Remember,
amen.
You need a prayer, go to him first.
Amen to that. And then tell us about it, and we'll join with you and pray for you. We're not scared. We'll do it.
And if it's a God story, get it to us.
You bet. All right. That about wraps it up for session 234. I'm Fritz.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Tina.
God bless you.
God bless.
God bless.